I take you now to step 2 in the process of producing a Kidsville News cover. Here's my original sketch, and I have taken it and blown it up on my computer in Photoshop and printed it off at a larger size. Now I will also point out, you remember, I also flopped it in Photoshop because my original drawing was on this side of the page, do you remember? And I turned it over, so now the writing on the sign is backwards, but I really want to print it looking at it this view. So I flopped it in Photoshop and I blew it up to the size that I want. Let me show you a really neat trick. Again, using my light table. I can't fit all of this image on one piece of paper, of course, so I fit it on 4 pieces of paper, and I'm going to splice them together. And it's a really neat trick to know, especially if you're an illustrator in the graphic arts business. I just line up those 2 illustrations using my light table, taking a straight edge and an X-Acto knife, cut through both layers, and now these images line up exactly. And then of course I'm going to go ahead and tape these together. I'm taping on the front side of my illustration. There's a reason for that. I'll show you in a moment. Let me proceed to the other half of the illustration. There, so now I have the illustration the size that I want it, and I'll go ahead and tell you that I'm going to be doing the final artwork, in this case on a piece of Strathmore wet media illustration board. Now I used to do these illustrations on CS10 paper. Go Google it, you'll find a bunch of people looking for it and nobody can find it anymore. It was a transparent, very super tough paper, so I used to be able to just trace this illustration on a light table onto my illustration board. I can't do that anymore because I'm using an opaque surface to work on. So now I have to do something a little bit fancier than that. Adds one more step to the process, but can't be helped. And here's what that one step is. So I have here a piece of block charcoal, medium hard, not too soft, so I'm not kicking up too much dust. You can see the Scotch tape showing through, but basically what I'm going to do is rub this charcoal. I don't need these lights anymore. I'm going to rub this charcoal over the entire back of this illustration. Now, as you can see, that's very uneven and irregular, but if I simply take a piece of clean extra tissue and rub it in, I want a nice even coat scattered, spread out over the entire back side of this illustration. And I think you can see where I'm going with this, can't you? I'm turning this piece of paper into a piece of homemade carbon paper. So now I have my homemade carbon paper securely fastened to my illustration board, and I'm ready to begin tracing the image from the back of the paper to the board. And to do that, I'm going to use a red ballpoint pen. The reason I'm using red is because it will help me see where I have been and where I have yet to do my tracing. A ballpoint pen, because it tends to roll over the paper and gives me a uniform pressure on the board underneath. I'm going to do just a little bit of the drawing here and then look at it to make sure that it's really coming through the way I want it to. So let's remove this piece of tape here and then take a look at that. Hey, can you see that? Perfect. That's exactly what I want. So here we go. I'll be doing this for a while. So there we go. Not a bad drawing. Now I'm going to trace over that in ink.